Happy New Year to my fellow KW stakeholders. Of course, it's Aaron Kaufman, Chief Stakeholder Evangelist out of Atlanta, Georgia. And guys, cannot tell you how excited I am about this interview that I have this morning. We are definitely kicking off 24 with a bang. This morning, we are with the true OG, KW Profit Share, Mr. Mike Brodie. How you doing this morning?
Hey, good morning, Aaron. Good to see you, my friend.
Good football weekend for you. I know the Cowboys were given a gift by the referees. I didn't know if you were a Texas fan.
Hey, well, we'll take any gifts they'll give us. So that's
no doubt. And as a Falcons fan, we'll take as many gifts.
Yeah, I get you.
Well.
And by the way, I've heard that OG. Nobody tells me what I think it means. Old guy. I don't know what it means. So
original gangster, Mike.
Original gangster.
The original gangster.
All right. Right. Let's have
and
fun.
That's gangster with an A, just so you know. Look, before we jump into this, Mike, I want to say a couple of things. First thing I want to say is thank you. Okay. Thank you for, being one of the people that we, has painted a vision for profit share, like Linda McKissick, like Dave Jenks. We always say we stand on the shoulders of giants. I don't think I would be where I am today if it wasn't for, the vision that you guys had for profit share and for KW many years ago. But I also want to thank you, Mike, because, you've always been so good to me over the years. You were one of the people, when I was a little bit of a troublemaker in KW, which I am a little bit still, but Aaron 2.0 these days. But, you were always very encouraging of me, of what I was doing, even though what I was doing was a little bit outside of the box. So I just want to thank you for that. And, one of my biggest moments in KW, of course, was when you and I did our panel, our profit share panel at Family Reunion a couple of years ago. So thank you for that. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for you. Before we talk to you,
Aaron, you're very kind. And I want to thank you for all of us because you're carrying the flag. You are the ambassador, and we need that. And we've worked together. We've had you in the Maryland, D.C. region. You come to Plano and talk for our Mama Center here. And I consider you a special friend. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And as I always tell people who thank me for what I'm doing, I'm just taking a greater ownership stake in this company. I have a huge financial stake in. I just wish more of our associates would think the same way. But before we dive into your story and, all the things around profit share and all the wisdom you have, do you happen to know, I want to get people's attention right off the bat. Do you happen to know how much lifetime profit share you've earned up until this point?
For career?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's somewhere over, it's like 10.6 million, maybe.
10.6 million. Wow. I hope that gets people's attention because that's some crazy money, Mike. So let's go back. Let's talk about this journey you've been on. I mean, look, I know you're so much more than just a profit share earner. You're a legend in real estate. You're a legend in KW. But can we go back 40 years ago that we go back to when before you were a real estate agent, before you joined KW? I'd love to hear your story of how you got into real estate, how you joined KW, who you selected as your sponsor, because I'm sure they're grateful that they sponsored Mike Brodie to KW. But why don't you tell us your story and what brought you to KW?
Okay. I'll try and keep it brief and less.
Please go. We got an hour, Mike. So okay. Rush. All right.
Yeah. Well, I kind of fell into real estate by accident. I'm a sixth generation Texan. Grew up throughout the South. We moved a little bit. In fact, I lived in Atlanta for a while. Started elementary school there. And,
I didn't know that.
And then back to Dallas for junior high and high school. Went to my senior year. We moved to Des Moines, Iowa. I wound up standing in the Midwest. It's where I met my future wife. Still married 51 years now. And we got married right out of college. And I major was in marketing. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I'd interviewed with a bunch of companies that come in and talk to the business school students. And they all said the same thing. At 28 here, 25, you will have moved twice. 46, this happens. And at 57, you'll have these options. And that just, I was bored. That didn't excite me. I was ready to get going. And we were actually on our honeymoon. And I was out running an errand. And I saw a real estate office. I said, I wonder what that's about. So I went in. And literally within 20 minutes, I said, it was in Dallas. I was living in Iowa at the time. And I said, I want to come back to Texas anyway. I'll give it a shot. I need to finish this honeymoon thing. About 60 days to go back, transition. I'm moving back to Texas. So, and literally it was in January of 73. So it's 51 years like right now. So this week. So
that's amazing.
I came to KW in 94. I got a call in late.
You were in the industry, so you were in the industry for 20 years before you even joined KW. So going back to 73, let's talk about, was this a local company in Dallas? Was this a
local independent? I was with them for 8 years, 4 years in sales. Right about my 26th birthday, my mentor and leader, a lady named Virginia Cook, made me a manager in Plano, Texas, which then was 40,000 population. Today it's 300,000. So we've seen a lot of change. I did that for 4 years, and then met another guy named Dick Dillingham. That's where I met him. He was a manager at another office. We became best friends, family friends, now business partners for over 40 years. And we went to our mentor, that leader of the company, amazing woman. Virginia said, "You can build a kingdom here. We want to help you. We want to help you develop this and go beyond our management roles." And I think she thought we were trying to take over, which we weren't. And she said, "No, I'm going to leave it the way it is. I'm just going to be me and a line of managers." And so Dick and I went and started our own company when we were 29. We had it for about 6 years, grew it to probably number 2 in market share. And then we were acquired by a financial services company. They already had mortgage, title, banking, insurance, everything except that first domino.
Yeah.
It was the one-stop shop. This was back in the mid 80s.
Yeah.
That's not a new concept. And so they bought us and another mid-sized company, put us together. They moved Dick to be the senior VP of mortgage and made me the general manager, senior VP of brokerage. And so we went from one office to, or really 2 offices to 13 during a recession, late 80s. And after 4 years, my boss, the president of the company, I was number 2 in the company. We were a little bit, she was amazing, but we were a little bit like oil and water. And I was getting a little bored. So I left and went back into sales. So a lot of my early career was in management, ownership, general manager of a company. And so in my mid 30s, decided to go back into sales. So the public didn't know me.
Yeah.
Known within the industry, but I didn't. So I was starting from scratch. I went to an office, happened to be a Remax. But I went there because of the location. It was on a great street. It was in my county, Collin County, which is just north of Dallas County, had a Dallas address. And I trusted the broker. I knew her from my previous company, integrity above reproach, all that.
And Remax was a fairly new model at that time, right?
No, they were dominant by then.
They were dominant there. Okay.
They had grown. They were number 1 in the United States. They were
Gotcha.
in Dallas. They had 25% market share here.
Gotcha.
Now I was looking at chart. Now they're 3% market share. So, but at the time, that was the number. Remax was number 1 in the world, and our office was number 1 in Texas, number 3 in the world. It was a very powerful office. Some names you would know, like Mary Harker and Dillingham, and others came out of that market, that office brokerage. And I'd been there about 5 years, visible on stage, speaking, et cetera, in Remax, coaching Little League, teaching CRS classes. Life was great.
Yeah.
And this is where it started. It started with what I call the call. The call.
Yep.
From a guy who had a great script. I use it. It has to vary a little bit, but when you break it down, it's pretty simple. So let me kind of go through that.
Yeah, please.
So this guy calls me. He says, I answer the phone. It's back when you had phones with cords and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? It was just me and an assistant admin. So I picked up the phone, and he starts out. He says, "Mike, my name is Darren Gribble. You don't know me, but I know you. Everybody knows you, and congratulations on your great reputation that you've earned for yourself. The purpose of this call, and by all appearances, you're happy, successful, and loyal to your broker," which was true. Yeah. And those are 3 objections that always come up. I'm happy. Why change? I'm successful, and I'm loyal to my broker, right? So he got that out of the way immediately.
Exactly.
Very well done. And he said, "But I'm calling you because of your experience and wisdom. I'd like for you to critique a new business model that may be coming to town, and I'd love your input on it. Would you give me 15 minutes over a cup of coffee?" Well, I like this guy. He said all those nice things, right? And I said, "All right, okay, I'll give you. You're right. I am happy, but I'll give you 15 minutes." And so we arranged to meet at a local coffee shop. This is before Starbucks, and so we go there, and in walks this man and woman, and I didn't know either. I had never met Darren, and it's Althea Osborne is the lady who became another mentor for me. And she's so elegant and gracious, and she has that beautiful British accent.
Yep.
So she carries the conversation once we get going. And she basically kept it simple, which it is simple. And she said, Mike, it's a simple formula. One, we're a risk-free 100% company. You're 100%, but we're risk-free. I said, what's that mean? She said, you don't have to pay in that model back then. You had to pay every month in Remax. Now you get whatever.
Yeah, Remax was more of originally Remax was more of like a landlord-tenant sort of relationship, right?
Totally.
You pay
You rent a desk.
Yeah.
You pay an override fee, and you just pay your own bills monthly. Yep. Right? She said, so you pay as you go on a fair split, 70-30, which is a very good split then. And she said, until you hit a cap, and then you get 100% the rest. I said, what's a cap? I'd never heard of that. And so she explained it. It was 18 plus the 3. And so that got my attention. I said, what else? She said, well, it's run by, we have agent governance. And I said, what? She said, we have this little, she said, it's got a silly name like ALC, but we call it like a board of directors. And they have input into the policies and direction and decisions of the company. I said, that won't work. I've run companies, I've owned companies, and I've been an agent. I said, there's always a tug of war for the dollar. Agent thinks they're paying too much. Brokers think they're paying too much to the agent. If you give the agents that power, they'll bankrupt it'll never make it. She said, well, it's limited democracy, but a great checkpoint for it is our third feature, which is profit share. And so she started talking about that. That 15 minutes turned into 2.5 hours.
And what year was this, Mike? Do you remember what year this was?
Yes, this was in November of 1993.
Okay, so we had all, a lot of people don't know that we started off as a revenue sharing company, but we transitioned into profit share. So we had been we were a profit sharing company for about 4 years there at that point, right? So that was a new sort of idea for us as well, but and we probably weren't profitable really.
And the company, which was founded in '83, was only 10 years old.
Right.
And it had been geographically concentrated in Texas and Oklahoma and maybe 1 or 2 other places. At the time, they had about 1,000 agents when this was going on. And so the profit share really captured my attention, which is interesting because today when they've run, why do you join KW? Profit share is like number 8.
Yeah.
Right? They go culture, education, training,
exactly.
Good. And, but it got my attention. And she said, I'm humbled and embarrassed by this, but she said, at one point she kind of leaned in, she's got that beautiful brogue accent. She said, Mike, it's just like mailbox money. This year in Austin, I'm going to make $30,000 to $35,000 in profit share.
Wow.
I said, out there, my degree's in finance. You only pay 18 in. That's impossible. I didn't understand the structure. That's why it took 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I thought by the end of that, I went, wow, because I was happy. But now I'm getting entrepreneurial urges again.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is the embarrassing part. And my evil side, I thought, well, if she, as lovely as she is, can do 30,000 in profit share in Austin, Texas, what can I do in Dallas, Texas, right?
Absolutely.
I can do 50,000. Never.
Absolutely.
I think that it would be 50,000 a month or more. I was thinking a year. So it really turned into just a great part of my life. It changed my life for sure. Now, the second part of that is as those conversations. So I met with Gary twice. He flew to Dallas. We met in a conference room at DFW, and I went to Austin and met with him at the Hyatt up on the mezzanine, having coffee, and that was moving along nicely. And I thought, well, here's this, I would say arrogant and cocky young guy. I'll say confident.
Yeah.
And I really said, I like this guy. I said, so I bought into the who before I bought into the vision.
Absolutely. And you knew KW was going to disrupt the industry because you had been at multiple real estate companies, right? You kind of had that perspective of, because, Remax kind of had their moment,
right?
Because they came out with a disruptive model and you sort of saw this as potentially the next evolution of the industry. Yeah,
I did. And mainly because of Gary's vision, because of Gary one and then his vision.
Sure.
But it was not disruptive yet. They had actually been to Dallas area and failed. And so as it evolved, in fact, I asked him, I said, because they kept talking about open book.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, can I come to your franchise orientation, which is what it was called then. It was 4 days. Gary taught it all 4 days.
Yep.
In Austin. It was at the Omni South. And there were 12 people there. And he said, well, you haven't bought a franchise yet. I said, well, are you hiding something? You said it's open book. I just want to learn.
Sure.
I really wanted to go and see who else was in the room. And it was a pretty strong room of people. And so after 3 or 4 days, we shook hands in the lobby of that Omni. I said, I'm in. Give me about 60 days to work up a transition plan. And so that was it.
So how did that transition plan go down at your company at that time? Were they?
She offered me ownership, give it to me, all kind of reasons to retain. So I said, I've made this decision, and I went home and told my wife. I said, she said, well, here you go again. She said, okay, I'll support you. And so I had to keep selling. And and by the way, my sales manager at Remax was a guy named Dick Dillingham. She's trying to talk me out of it the whole time. I said, buddy, I got to go. I want to do this. I'm excited. I had that fire, you know.
And Dick came with you? Yeah.
No,
not
for about a year and a half.
Interesting.
Year and a half later, he finally came over, which we're very grateful for. He's an amazing man. And so, but I asked the question of Althea. I said, if we're going to do this, I need your commitment that we can build a flagship. If we're going to do this, I think I'm confident that we can draw the people. But I need to build a flagship if you want me to help develop the region, which she did.
Yeah. And
that's another part of the story I'll come back to. And I said, we want to build something so good that everybody in the area goes like, I want one of those, or I want to be a part of that. And so we did, which was Dallas Preston Road. It's been the top 20 every year for 30 years now. And just down the street from me. So that's where I started. We launched that.
And that was the first office in Dallas, or because you said it had failed before, right?
They had failed in Dallas before. They had failed in Arlington before. They had two standing offices at that time. And Althea said, "You're going to be my regional director too." So I was everything. I was OP, team leader, mega agent, regional director, as we started building. And she said, "I want you to close this office over in what we call the mid cities.
Yeah, we
need a new owner in Denton, Texas." And so, nice lady up there, but she had gone a little bit rogue on the company, and ultimately that became the McKissicks, of course. So we got to work on that transition.
What do you think was the biggest reason that those offices didn't make it? I mean, was it the people? Was it trying to create their own version of the model? What were your thoughts around that?
Well, you start with the who.
Yeah,
it was the wrong who. I think, and I've been guilty of this too, where I've opened offices, I get impatient, particularly when something's new. You're excited to just go. Now we have something, career visioning, the KPA, up to 30-60. Now we have a process to kind of keep us in check and balances and make better decisions on the who.
Well, and don't you think a part of that too, Mike, is that, even though we're this innovative company and, agent centric, we're still built on the backs of people that came out of a very brand centric traditional industry.
Oh, yeah.
So my guess is, not everybody at that time was willing to empower the agents and willing to, do things differently than they've always known, right?
With the exception of Remax, it was still very traditional. In fact, at the time, the two companies, Remax and Ebby Halliday Company, a fine company, they had both 20 to 25% market share, almost half the market in two companies.
Yeah,
one very traditional one. And I looked today at, I was going through this earlier. This in DFW, that's Keller Williams.
Yeah.
Oops, let me sit over here.
Right, I see it.
And you go, and you go down here.
Going down, yep.
And so now Ebby's at 3% and Remax is at 3.2%. Right. And we're at 11%.
Yep.
So it's not close. And so things change. But one this is important on the profit sharing piece. At one point, Darren, who called me, who kind of faded out after Althea and I got working together, he was a telemarketer. Althea, the region at that point, because of some of the history that I've just shared, was in default. They hadn't grown fast enough. So she had like 6 months to cure to get either so much royalty or so many agents in place. So she hired a telemarketer, brilliant, to get her appointments, and she would come up 2 or 3 and just meet with people. So I didn't know at the time. I didn't know that till later. I thought this some executive partner with Gary.
He was just an appointment center, right?
Appointment center. He's an ISA. He's an ISA, as we would call it today.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, when it came time for sponsorship, this was a very powerful lesson. It shows the integrity of the company and certainly the person in Althea.
Absolutely.
And I said, okay, Althea, I understand the profit share. It's time for me to choose a sponsor. I was thinking about you or Gary, but since Gary's your sponsor, I'll choose you, and we'll all be in alignment. She goes, no, you don't choose me, you choose Darren. And I literally said, well, Darren and I aren't close. I kind of don't get along with him. She said, Mike, I would have never met you if it hadn't been for Darren. You should choose Darren, which I did. Now, that is a lesson that has served me. I've done the same thing where I've said, no, don't pick me, pick Aaron. Based on the case, probably 30 times in my career because of that lesson of integrity that I got from Althea.
And did you adopt the same, cold calling? Because I had always heard, Mike, that you had hired some people to do some cold calling for you to set appointments. Did you follow that same pattern?
No,
or were you doing most of it?
No. I wish I had. Maybe it'd been even more. But I mainly just worked from network. So when we were going to launch the flagship, I thought I identified 4 people from different companies. I thought I wanted to pull. I don't want to just get somebody from just pull from company A. So leaders in 4 top companies that I had relationships with. They have to all be women. I said, meet me up at this local country club at 4:00 on Thursday. I got some news to share with you. It's very important, but please come. So they showed up, and actually a 5th one showed up who was uninvited, which was Mary Harker, because they were her girlfriends. And the reason Mary wasn't invited is I told my RE/MAX broker I would not proselytize. I would not pull from that office. Right. So but Mary just showed up anyway. And so I go through my vision and my pitch and talking about the company. And I went down the line and Mary started. She said, well, I can't leave RE/MAX. I get too much stage time at conventions. It's from my referrals, blah, blah, blah. Another one said, well, I'm about to retire. I'll tell my daughter. Another one said, I'm the queen of, I just got put on for foreclosure queen of Coldwell Banker. They got me in the Wall Street Journal. I can't leave that. And then we get to the top agent from a company, from the Debbie Halliday company, fine company, very fine company. Her name is Jan Ritchie. So she's the last one. I'm going, well, she goes,
Jan Ritchie. Yeah, she's great.
She's awesome. And she goes, I'm in. I wanted to say, are you sure? No, right? And kind of a fun joke over the years is, and she was nervous, but she said, I'm in. I don't know why I'm saying this, but I'm in. I want to do this. And she went home to tell her husband, Tom, also a good friend. And she laughs now. She said, I went home and I told Tom, I told her, she said, no. She said, I just had a glass of wine with Mike Brodie at the country club. We need to talk to you. It was the wrong way to put it, Jan. So we've laughed about that over the years. So
I think it's fair to say too, Mike, that, the reputation you had, right, in Dallas was tremendous. And this is probably why Jan only, said I'm in, because if Mike Brodie's in, I'm probably in too. So, I mean, that obviously is the foundation of all of this, right? Is that you worked really hard to build your reputation. Even today, you will not say anything negative about any company, previous company, whatever. But I think that's important, right? I mean, obviously that's critical to everything, right? You might have the best disruptive model that the industry's ever seen, but if the agents in that market don't respect you, right, they're not going to care what you're selling or what you're talking about, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that all worked out, and Jan made a good decision because she went on to own Market Centers and region, and is still with us today. And,
yep.
Great lady. So so that's kind of how it launched, and within 30 to 60 days, we had, I'll call it my original core group.
Yep.
Of that group, of those 19 people that came from various places, 15 went on to own either Market Centers or regions, or part of Market Centers or regions. So it was a very powerful launch group. And then we opened South Lake, and then we did Plano, and 5 offices have launched out of Plano since then. Wow. And it's like a hub and spoke. Spokes started going out everywhere. And we dominate, as you saw in the chart. We're pretty dominant in DFW.
Now, when did profit share start to sort of show itself to you financially? I mean, obviously, now you think you've sponsored probably how many people to KW? You're 19.
Well, I don't know.
Sponsor of those people?
Probably 100 or more, but
okay.
It averages. It stays at the first level about 40.
Okay, but those 19 people you brought those are people you sponsored directly, or were they sponsoring people?
Some, but some of them sponsored the others, et cetera.
So when was your big aha moment financially with profit share? Because obviously you're building, and then I'm sure there was a moment, right, where you looked at your bank account one day and was like, "Holy smokes, where's this money coming from?"
It probably 6 or 7 or 8 years.
Oh wow, yeah,
Yeah. So my first year, which was in '94, remember we launched April 1st, April Fool's
yeah,
Day of '94, and in '94 our profit share was 0. You got to have profit before you can share it. That's the
absolutely.
thing. The next year it was like $400 for the year.
Mm,
Then it was 900. Then it was 2,000. Then it was 4,400. So I started looking. I said, "This is starting to double. We got a little flywheel effect going here."
yeah,
And so then it started going from 20 to 40 to 80.
that's amazing. So really didn't make any profit share for the first 6, 7, 8 years, right?
Right. Nothing significant. Right.
Right. That's
So
crazy. That's amazing.
patience. It's
Yeah,
a long game,
it
and
is.
that's hard for us for real. I mean, long range planning for realtors is typically lunch. So
Absolutely.
to think long, man. Think out 5, 6, 8, 10 years, and it can be significant and very significant.
So how did you paint that vision for the people that were opening up offices that you were getting to come to KW? I mean, you guys, you weren't profitable for 6, 7, 8 years. What was it? I mean, obviously you're taking your experience and transferring that to the people you brought to KW, but how did you maintain your sort of your true north with profitability when people were not really? And then how did that even? Were you big into talking about profit share as it came to, when we talk about culture and things like that? I mean, was that something that you found challenging to kind of incorporate into the model when you weren't profitable early on?
Aaron, that's a great question. What
Yeah,
you phrased is actually, I learned pretty quickly not to lead with profit share.
right.
I lead with vision. We can make a difference in lives. We can
Yeah,
change the face of real estate. This is agent centric. That's what created excitement. Not let's figure out a profit share plan for
right,
8
right.
years from now, and
Exactly.
then you work that in through your other training and so forth, and get the support.
But once you become profitable and profit sharing becomes real, did you start shouting, not shouting it as your number one value, but you obviously started talking about it more, started building some momentum around it? Yeah.
And in today's world, everything's automatic deposit,
Yeah.
electronic. We used to make a big deal about giving out the checks.
Yeah.
My first check was $3.12.
I love that.
$3.12, and I wish I'd saved it and framed it, but I didn't. And of course, they look a lot different now.
Well, you just jump on the internet and print that first page out. All right, go back in history. But I tell you, that was actually something that really inspired me. Was my team leader would get up, and back when we had the profit share statements that were supposed to be printed out every month by every market center, and I'll never forget, Mike. The day I saw your profit share statement, right, and it had a binder clip on it, right? There's the Staple Club, and then there's the Mike Brodie Binder Clip Club, because you had about 300 pages in your monthly profit share statement. But what I loved about what my team leader did was that he would get up at the first stakeholder meeting after the 21st of the month, and he would start passing these things out, right? And he would always start with the lowest, okay? Because oftentimes the lowest check is somebody's very first check, right? And that needs to be celebrated as much as anybody else's check. And I think sometimes, Mike, you've seen you've had, I'm sure, multi-$100,000 checks, right? And they're just mind blowing. But the fact is, in many ways, they don't seem like they're attainable, right? They don't seem real. And I think sometimes, when I was starting to get excited about profit share, people like you and Linda McKissick were on stage at Family Reunion and the Harkers, right? And it was just sort of like, wow, this money is just so crazy. I can't even imagine it. And I think, making people understand that, look, it started with a $3, $8 check for you, right? You were with KW for 8 years being intentional about this before you even saw your first check. And the challenge we face, obviously in a shifting industry, is that agents right now, just trying to figure out how to pay their bills, right? And the idea of being intentional about a long-term sort of, wealth building plan doesn't register for people. But I want people to understand that if you just focus on it, right, it's a snowball rolling downhill, right? I mean, it just takes a little bit of focus, a little bit of energy, and then who knows, Mike? I mean, do you have? I mean, I know some of the people you brought to KW opened up market centers. But is there somebody in particular that you brought to KW that just took off and built your profit share at a level that just amazes you to this day?
I can think of 2 or 3 that come to mind. One One of the first was a gentleman named Wayne Hall, who passed away a couple of years ago, dear friend of me.
Yeah.
And I was asked to help with Keller Williams finally decided to get a booth at an NAR convention, which was in San Francisco. This would have been 99 or 2000. And we just, Dick and I and a couple other people just acquired the rights to develop Northern California. We had it later. And so I said, I'd volunteer to go to the booth. Well, the booth was a folding table, 2 plastic plants, either end, red or green plants, and not much of a backdrop. And we had, like little, folders like this that we were handing out. So I'm just doing my duty there. And a guy walks up, about my age, and he's in suit and tie, and just starts talking and asking questions. He was asking great questions, but he didn't pop. He didn't fill me with immediate energy. But he was intellectual, and so eventually, and I'm just thinking he's not the guy. And he was from Sacramento area, a big suburb called Roseville, and what was so I'll never forget. He said, he said, Mike, you're probably thinking I'm not the guy, which is weird. And he said, but I am the guy who knows the guys and gals. And he was so respected and connected. He went back. He launched Roseville in a little shack over, literally by some railroad tracks, lead with revenue, right? And then so he became a hub in Roseville, and later opened 5 other market centers. He said he would find the right who, say, you go do the work, I'll put the money behind it, we'll be 50-50 partners. Kind of a Trammell Crow model.
Sure.
Gary talked about that.
Yep.
So Wayne was he was our pioneer, and then it was followed by Bev Steiner and then a couple of others.
A lot of people don't know Roseville was the #1 most profitable market center for KW for many years.
They were the first one to ever displace Austin Southwest.
Yep.
Right. A second one that displaced them was Portland, Maine, which was Dottie Bowe and Leanne Barstorff. I'm at Mega Camp at the Austin Convention Center. I'm looking at the schedule, trying to figure out where to go next out in the hall. And this lady comes up to me. She says, sir, can I ask you, are you with KW? And I said, yes. She said, may I ask you a couple of questions? And they have those little aluminum tables and chairs. Yeah. And so we went over and sat down. She said, I'm here as a guest. I kept trying to register. I couldn't get registered. So I registered on site. I just wanted to know, I'm fascinated by your model. I said, where are you from? She said, Portland, Maine. And so we spent about 45 minutes. 3 or 4 months later, she called. She said, Mike, this is Leanne Nichols, Leanne Barstorff, now Leanne Nichols. She said, and we're going to open a Keller Williams office. You were so kind. You were one of the first that would really talk to me and answer my questions. Do you mind if I choose you as my sponsor? That just by being there, right? And
Mike, Portland is the #2 most profitable market center in KW today.
Yeah,
which is
every year,
right? Which is amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing, and they're great. They've got it going. I've been up there several times because of that. Summer and winter, I went and did an ALC retreat in the winter in Portland, Maine, which is awesome. And that's one. And then the third one was a good friend from Remax who wound up owning the Carolinas, rest of his soul, Mike Tavener. He called me with questions and eventually developed the Carolinas.
Amazing.
And I got to sponsor him. Getting a region in your downline certainly helps it. But those are the 3 that just all 3 different circumstances, and all 3 circumstances could happen to any of us. So I was very blessed.
That's amazing. And people need to understand. I mean, I've taught in Portland, Maine a couple of times. Yeah. Love going up there, drive up the coast, get a lobster roll right on the coast. But Portland, Maine's not a very big market. Okay. But somehow they're going to give back $1 million this year. Okay. In profit share in a shifty market. And I just love it when you look at right now, the 2 top, there's 3 offices that are vying for top market center in KW this year. They're all going to give back over $1 million.
That's awesome.
You've got Atlanta, okay, North Fulton with Andy Peters and all them doing amazing stuff. But you got Cleveland and you got Portland.
Yeah, I love it.
So when people tell me,
and Aaron, they're doing that in a recession, a business recession. Right. Real estate market's not in a recession. Real estate business is in a recession.
Absolutely. And let's get real, the industry's under assault as well. Yeah. So, but when people always tell me the KW profit sharing model is broken, I'm like, I'm sorry. Have you checked out these market centers that are crushing it? Because look, the fact is, Mike, let's get real. Don't agents need what we have to offer right now more than ever? And to me, this is this is what I believe. And I want to kind of transition into this conversation here because, a lot of people are sitting there saying, well, shoot, Mike just came into KW at the right time. He was a very influential top agent with relationships, with money. He opened up offices. He brought people that opened up regions. The time has passed. Okay, the time has passed for for the opportunity to go huge with profit share. What would you tell somebody that thinks that way, particularly in this moment? Okay, when we can be honest here, Mike. As a company, profit sharing is down. Okay, just like the market's down. There's a lot of new flashy objects that are attracting people. What would you tell somebody today that says, "Hey, look, the opportunity's behind me," or KW is old news. There's new models out there. Why should I get purposeful about something today in this moment that might take who knows how long to see a return on investment?
Yeah, great points. I've heard all that. It's you were good there in the early years and all that. I think that's an excuse.
Yep.
And a couple of points. One that didn't get talked about much is this company at its age, and a lot of it, to use your word, the OGs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kalinsky, Linda, the others, right? We're about to go into a whole new generation. I'll just call it KW 2.0 or 3.0. There's going to be a lot of transfer of wealth or ownership.
Yep.
There's going to be a lot of new opportunity coming in, et cetera. So I think this is a phenomenal time of opportunity.
I agree.
Secondly, here's an opportunity people have that we didn't have, is we will probably just, facts are, but not just NAR, but every company, we will probably lose 40 to 50,000 agents this year, from 180 down to 130. We'll replace them all, or most of them.
Yep.
So let's just say there's 40,000. Let's just use 40,000 number. Those 40,000 will be replaced.
These are KW agents. KW
agents, right?
Yep.
NAR is going from $1.6 million to $1.4 million.
Yep.
We're going from 180 to 140, but we're replenishing as we go.
Sure.
So those 40,000 replacements new. The one thing they all have in common, every one of them has to fill out something that says my sponsor is.
Yep.
So how many will put down, to all the people watching or listening, your name?
Exactly.
You're gonna pick somebody, and there's it's so easy. Let's go into systems now, and I'm a relationship guy, but I also believe in systems and models. What if we're about lead generation, right? We all lead generate 3 hours every morning.
Of course.
Yeah. If you're KW and Gary's in the room, you raise your hand. Oh yeah.
Yep.
What if you took, say that became such a routine, you wanted to break it up? What if you said on Thursdays at 10 a.m., I'm going to take 10 or 15 minutes and I'm going to call 3 people that either I think are influential, I've done a deal with recently, I respect, and just say, hey, I just want to tell you how much I think of you. We just did a deal at 2301 Canyon Creek Drive. It was a great experience. I was bragging about you to my team leader. I've asked her she's going to give you a call to thank you. So when she calls, please receive her call warmly. All right. And so you do 3 of those a week. You get the names and contact and a little background to your team leader. Your team leader.
What's the worst thing that can happen, Mike? What's the worst thing that can happen from those phone calls?
Oh, they're gonna like me better.
Yeah.
Because I called them and said nice things to them, right?
Exactly.
It may open them up a little bit, and it's a bit of a numbers game.
Yeah.
So let's say you only do that 10 months a year. So you get 3, that's 12 a month. That's 10. Let's say you do 10 months. That's 120 leads a year you give your team. Over 10 minutes. And at the same time, you write a thank you note. Dear Tammy, thanks again for the transaction on Canyon Creek Drive. Let's stay in touch, Mike. You're amazing. All right. Now she likes me even more. Right.
Yeah.
And so when my team leader calls, those 3, that's 120 calls a year. Right.
Exactly.
Half of them will say, no, thanks. Happy, loyal, love my broker. Right. Some probably the remaining half of those might meet, and then half of those will join. So there's 10 or 12 recruits right there.
Exactly.
Existing, maybe R2s.
Yep.
R1s, R2s. And so that's a simple system. It makes you more popular. They're more likely to show your listings, even if they don't join in the future, because they like you, right?
Absolutely.
So that's a simple lead generation time blocking system. Just get you in a pattern and think long. Don't look for immediate gratification, but it will come. It will come. So those 40 people on my first line, over the 100 plus over the years. That the way this leverages out in the tree, that's I think the last time I looked, it's about 8,800 people in my tree.
Wow, unbelievable.
From 40 at the first line, so just over time it grows.
And I want to put an exclamation point on something you said, Mike, is that people need to understand that their greatest recruiting tool is leadership. Okay, like you have full-time salaried leadership teams whose sole purpose it is to build wealth for you. Okay, leverage them, because I'll tell you right now, if they're going to build it one way or the other, they're going to either build it through you or around you, right? And so I just want people to understand, look, if all you take from this call is say, I love, be an agent that people respect, say, hey, I love KW, I love doing this transaction with you. Would you be offended if my team leader contacted you? If that's all you did, right, probably have some success, right? And not only would you have some success in this market, you get one of these agents to KW right now, and they look back a couple of years from now and imagine where their life and their business would have been had you not got them here. I mean, they're going to be grateful to you. And I think that's the underlying message, Mike, of a lot of my messaging is that when you walk the walk as a KW stakeholder, when you teach classes, when you share your ideas, when you participate in culture, when you seek out opportunities and referrals outside your market, you go to these events, these national events. I mean, this company impacts your life and your business. And that is what ultimately, I think, compels people to get into these conversations with people. But if you don't take advantage of all the things that we have to offer, it's kind of hard to kind of communicate why you love KW. And I know you're saying, hey, look, that's not your job. It's team leader's job. I'm just saying it's still an uncomfortable conversation for a lot of people, just like cold calling FSBOs and expired listings. But when you know you're a great agent and you know that FSBO would be lucky to list their house with you, right? That compels you to get back on the phone. It compels you to be persistent with your efforts. So would you agree, though, that that's where it all starts, right? Is taking advantage of all the things that we have to offer as a company so that you believe in what you're talking about.
Aaron, I love that. In fact, what I hear occasionally, I've heard it recently, well, what's your value proposition? What's your value? Right. Well, don't get me started. I mean,
right.
Start with my elevator speech. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me break it down. First of all, we got scale, we got brand, we got the best toolbox in the industry, and we've got leadership. Yeah. Let's take those four things. That's easy. Scale. We're the largest. No company in history has done or created what we have done and have. It's not 180,000 people. We got scale. Huge. That's 54 countries now?
Yeah. And let's talk about that before you go to the next one, Mike, because, now we're in the fourth industrial revolution, right? This is, scale is more important than ever, right? Because it's about data. It's about insights. And I think people need to understand that, I think one of the things that gets me jumping out of bed in the morning and purposeful about profit share is that we've been kind of a sleeping giant over the last 5 to 6 years, right? Well, a lot of these flashy agent models have been coming out, right? That have been attracting a lot of agents, right? We're playing, I always tell people we're consumer-centric, agent-driven, right? And that the company that's going to succeed in the future is going to be the company that can offer the best digital experience, price offer, right? And the most insights. And Gary talks about that all the time. So scale, especially when you're building your own tech, right, is everything. Because look, it's been hard, it's been messy. We all agree. The building tech has been messy. But guess what? We've been building it for 8 years now. We have the most agents helping us evolve it. We have the most data and scale. I tried to get a hashtag to go viral a couple of years ago. I stopped using it, but it was a play on you got mail. It was like, hey, hashtag we got scale, right? I mean, the fact is we got scale. And as long as we continue to build that tech and fail forward, right? I mean, that scale is what is giving us the unfair advantage, I think. And
the tech thing, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but
yeah,
the abuse it took, that's history. We're talking about history.
Yeah.
It's really good now, and it's getting better.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really it's a leading program. So, and I think the investment we're making in it is great value. Great value.
Absolutely. It's about the consumer, right? It's about the consumer. It's not about the agents anymore. Right. I mean, obviously the agents, it's still, people hire agents, but the fact is, I always tell people, I tell our agents, look, hey, heads up, your customers are not just going to be loyal to you in the future. Okay. They're going to be loyal to the consumer experience and the price offer. So as much as they love you, if they can get a similar, customer experience, a similar price, and a better price offer, they ain't going to be loyal to you in the future. Right.
No, we've kept this scale through, I think 70 or 80% of NAR members joined 2012 or later.
Yeah.
They've never been through a market like this.
Exactly.
I've seen 6 of them. They've never seen this, and they're all different. Okay. So we had a 10-year run. Their data just came out last week. In America, prices went up over the last decade, 175%.
Wow.
Home back. I mean, huge in equities and so forth. It's been a roaring market. During that market, everybody says, well, I want to do my own thing. I want to put out my own shingle. I'm going to be a broker. I'm going to start Innovate Inc. or whatever.
Yeah.
And so while we've gone from 17% market share to about 10 or 11, we're still doing more business. There's just so many little nibblers out there. It's not real significant competition. They affect it, sure. Got to pay attention to them. But now that we're into a different market, they're great candidates for merger acquisition partners.
Well, and you would agree. Yeah. I mean, Mike, independents can't compete in the fourth industrial revolution, right? That's why that's probably the biggest growth sector for Keller Williams is getting independent brokerages to come to KW, because they see the writing on the wall, which is, how can I compete in this new data age when I'm a small mom and pop or whatever?
Yeah, right? I want to be boutique. I went through that. Dick and I did that.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So anyway, the second is scale. The second is brand. This was 4 years ago. The marketing company came out. We were the second most recognizable real estate brand. Number one was Remax at like 85% recognition. We were at 78% recognition. Let's just take those two. That's more than Coldwell Banker or Berkshire or whoever you want to.
Mike, we don't have to spend any money to get that brand recognition, do we?
So over the last 30 years, Remax has spent $3 billion to get that brand recognition. Their TV ads, their balloon ads, their everything they do. Fine company,
Sure.
And we've spent $3 billion in profit share back to our agents. No institutional public advertising.
Exactly.
Agents have built that brand through their presence. And so we've got the brand. It's very recognized. It's no longer Keller Who or we a paint store. I lived through that. It's wow.
And I think a good point to make here, Mike, is we don't have to buy. And I'm not talking about marketing dollars. I'm talking about buying market share. Like KW, we don't write checks. Okay, we don't buy market share. We attract market share. And there are companies that we know that are backed by a lot of money that kind of came into this industry buying market share. And then as the time went on, we've seen how those models seem to be playing out, right?
Well, those are all public companies. They're using other people's money. It's easy to spend other people's money.
Exactly.
It's reflected in stock prices. So, but my point would be, but what I say is, we don't buy agents, we build them.
I love that. And another great saying, Mike, people leave KW for the same reason they join, meaning if you came to KW or went to another real estate company for the money, for the price, there's always going to be a better price offer that comes along, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so brand, scale. What are the other two?
My other one's toolbox. We have the best toolbox as far as materials, coaching, training, technology. And I get on any stage with anybody and debate that. Nobody can match up our suite of SUITE, our suite of tools. Yeah. It's not touchable. Now, toolbox doesn't mean you have to use everything. You get to pick and choose what's right for you, right? Exactly. So you got a scale, brand, toolbox, and the last is leadership. Is both certainly at the national, regional, and local level. Leadership is a huge trait for us. There are companies they don't have a place to go, and they don't have a person to go to.
Exactly.
They're out there making noise, right? And so I think that leadership is really starting to shine and show up. It's certainly showing up for us, and it has and will continue.
Two thoughts. One thought is, I would say one of the biggest parts of our toolbox, and I know you would agree, is culture. Yeah. I mean, right. I mean, it's hard to quantify culture, right? When you're talking to agents that don't understand the KW culture, right? But I know You still have regional ownership out in Northern California, Hawaii, right? What do your agents in Maui think about KW culture after what happened?
Well,
yeah. Or the fires in Northern California? What do they think about how do they quantify culture after what we did for them? After those horrible events, right?
It was what KW Cares and others within the company have done everywhere. Excuse me.
No, you're fine.
Is you can't explain it. You can't define it. It's a feeling. It's a feeling. It's an emotion. It's hard to write it down. Others will they don't, unless you've experienced it and are part of it or received it. It's hard to know. It's hard to know. But yeah, the people in Maui they're just blown away. Same thing in the fires we had and all the other tragedies around the country.
Well, and that's what I love, Mike, about my journey through KW, right, is that I get to go all around North America teaching this class, right? And, I actually just booked Des Moines, Iowa, right, for a class in May. And obviously I know, you have an Iowa ties, but I mean, a lot of people on this call don't know what we did for Des Moines, Iowa, right? For our associates in Des Moines, Iowa. I was in Fort Myers, Florida, teaching a couple months ago after Hurricane Ian blew through there. And every time I teach my class, I ask people, I say, who's ever heard of mega relief? And I'll just tell you, Mike, less than 20% raise their hands. And so look, culture is great. Okay. Obviously the culture at KW is amazing. It's probably, I think on many levels, it's the number one reason to be in business with us. But you said it yourself, man, we're going to lose 40 to 50,000 of our agents this year. We're going to replace them with 50 to 60,000, right? The question is, are we going to tell our story to those 50, 60,000 agents better so that, because look, what I worry about, Mike, and I know, look, you have, I mean, your son is, a regional director at KW. This is not just about your next check. Okay. You have built a legacy, right? And I know you care about that legacy 20, 30, 50 years from now, as much as I do. And so, culture is great, but if we, sometimes growth can be messy. And I think KW has grown so fast that sometimes we forget to tell our own stories to our own agents. And I bet you, if you polled KW associates today, less than 20% of them would know about what happened in Des Moines, Iowa, what happened in Houston, Texas, and I just think that we as a company need to make sure that if that's going to continue to be a big rock of our company moving forward, we better keep telling our stories. Because look, Gary Keller, God bless you, he ain't going to live to be 150 years old. Okay. He's not going to be around forever. And we need to make sure that, we're telling our story better. Now, with that, do you agree? I mean,
you just inspired. I just wrote down culture with exclamation marks. That I need to start shouting it more. I think I'm pretty good at it, but I need to do more. It needs to be in every conversation. So thank you.
And then the other side of the thing that you said before was about leadership, right? And I think a lot of people need to understand, at least this has been my experience, that the tone of leadership has changed quite a bit over the last 5 to 7 years. I mean, I deal a lot with people like Jason Abrams, but I could not love Mark King more. I love that Mark Willis is back. But, there's a great saying from Diana Kokoska I heard years ago, and I think it applies to the moment. She said, you got to get people into pain to create change. And I think, KW in many ways needed to feel a little bit of pain. Okay. Look, we were a rocket ship, Mike, right? I mean, you experienced the days where you just knew, right? Like, we're going to take over this industry. It's inevitable, right? And now, and look, and I still feel as confident as you did back then, but the fact is, I think there's been a real change in tone and messaging around from leadership. And I know that we're seeing a lot of new regional leaders, a lot of new owners of market centers. And I'm just really excited about the energy that I'm feeling and the messaging that I'm getting from leadership. I think it's a lot different than it was 8 years ago. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree. I love our leadership. I think our leadership's as strong as it's ever been. And, I have total faith, loyalty, confidence, and trust in them. So I agree.
And I think it's fair to say, even though Gary Keller won't be around forever, he has surrounded himself with what he would say are people that are smarter than him, you know?
Yeah.
All right. So moving forward, Mike, okay. I mean, we've got about 5 to 10 minutes left on this call. I know you've talked about the four things, right? You said scale, brand, toolkit, leadership. Okay. What do you see moving forward? Like, how are you trying to inspire your people to kind of lean into the KW model, trying to keep our heads down, keep growing? Where's your mindset right now in this very difficult time, just to keep going and to keep powering forward? What is it that drives you?
I mean, I feel like on one hand, since we're the target, we're the biggest, we're
Yeah,
the hunted, right?
yeah, we are.
Sometimes, so I feel like on one hand, we're catching arrows in the air coming at us, right?
Absolutely.
Right? And so that's one thing. That's being the hunted. On
Yeah.
the other hand, we're building that toolbox and the tools for our agents to be even stronger, to give them
Yeah.
more tools, so the arrows are going out.
Absolutely.
Not in a hostile way, but in a market share growth way. And
Absolutely.
so here we've got this going on, and then we got this going on. So, and again, I've got total faith. I'll do everything I can to support all those initiatives and our leadership. I see their energy. I see their commitment. I see their creativity.
Yeah.
I see their chemistry. I think they've got great chemistry right now, and it gives me great confidence.
Sure. So what is the future of KW profit share, right? I mean, we've made some big changes recently. I wonder, Darren is not with KW anymore, is he?
No, he might be this summer.
So that's kind of where I was going with that, because if you got Mike Brodie in your downline, maybe those policies have a little bit more of an impact. But I mean, look, considering what we just went through, and look, and by the way, I went through a lot of ups and downs on how I felt about a lot of that stuff, but it's clear to me that they were all the right decisions, because people need to understand that if owning a KW Market Center is not a business worth owning,
right,
we're not going to be in business with great owners, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the changes that we've made, I think, is an acknowledgement that, hey, look, not only is the industry under assault, owning a KW Market Center is much more challenging today than it was, because guess what? When you start reducing your caps and you start, the industry is compressing agents' commissions, guess what, guys? Owners are making less money too, right? So what do you think about the future? Just kind of talking a little bit about some of the change. You don't have to talk specifically about the changes, but what do you feel like those changes are going to do for the future of profit share moving forward?
Well, let's just take the last 3 years. We've had this collision of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Right. And then we had this. Then we had we got the shortage in supply.
Yep.
We had interest rates going from 2.5% to nearly 8% in 6 months.
Yeah.
Prices with a huge spike of
lawsuits,
20
Wall Street tech
disruptors. So that's confused the public as much as our industry. Those 2 or 3 years are gone.
Yeah.
They're done. I think we're moving back to normalization. I think we're, as far as the downward trend in profits and profit share, I think 23 is kind of the trough. I think we'll start to see some rebuild. It'll start slowly, and then it'll go suddenly.
Yeah,
and we'll be back to great times. It'll look a little differently because we're such a high volume, low margin model.
Yep.
Now the volume is going to start coming back. So I think the future profit share is bright. I think we'll be moving back to some of the days past. So with our policy change coming up this spring, summer, we'll see. I think that's actually be healthy.
Yeah.
You and I both and others studied that long and hard to get there, but I think it's the right decision. So
yeah, I agree. And I think that, even though there have been some interesting models that have come into our industry, the two words I find myself saying in my class and in all my messaging these days, Mike, is purpose and community. Okay.
Wow.
Purpose and community. And I think what people need to understand is, if they don't already get it, heads up, there's only one company fighting for the future of your profession.
Right.
Where there's a real incentive for agents to work together and care about each other. And look, we don't need to be in business with every agent that needs what we offer, Mike, right? We need to be in business with the agents that value what we value and believe what we believe. And I actually believe that now more than ever, in a world that seems to be more divided than it's ever been, okay, being a part of a company a global company of, let's just say, 200,000 stakeholders that are bound together by purpose and community. I don't know, Mike, gives me a little peace of mind knowing that I'm a part of something bigger. And God forbid something bad happens to me or a natural disaster hits my town, I'm a part of something bigger. And, to me, those are the conversations that we need to continue to keep having, because it's hard to deliver on purpose and community if not all your agents are adopting your tech and helping you evolve it, or they're not buying into culture, or they're not donating to KW Cares. So I think in this moment more than ever, leaning into those two things is what's going to be the secret to our success moving forward. Do you feel the same way?
I do. I think we're seeing we're beginning to bounce back towards that, and I would just keep believing, keep preaching.
Yep.
I'm so grateful for you carrying the banner, and just keep being amazing, Aaron.
I will, Mike, and thank you for all you've done, all you will continue to do, and I can't wait to give you a big hug. It looks like, by the way, you're doing a lot better. I know you had a lot of some back surgeries over the years. Looks like you got your color back. You look like you got a little skip in your step. Yeah, you feeling good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Right. So I can't wait to see you in Vegas. All right.
Okay, I'll see you there. All right, buddy.
All right. Thanks again for your time.
God bless everybody. Happy New Year.
You got it, buddy. Happy New Year to you, man. Take care.